Welcome to the 2025 PCC Users Conference, everyone. I would like to begin by, first of all, saying thank you to everyone who is here. We really deeply appreciate the effort that you take to get here. I mean, yeah, I know it's cool, we do it for free, but it's nice. I mean, it's not for free because you have to take time away from your office. Travel isn't cheap. And so we are very, very grateful to your attendance. Your appearance here is why we do this. I would also like to thank all of the PCCers who put this production on. It takes a tremendous amount of work. So all those people who are standing up against the wall right now, thank those folks. I mean, I work for 30 minutes in the morning. I might teach a class. That's about it. But there are other people here who have been working like 21/7 for the last couple weeks. And if anything seems like it happened easily, that's because someone did a lot of work. And if it didn't happen easily, someone did do a lot of work. You just weren't reading the instructions. All right. I have some official announcements to get us going. Usually I don't have a speechwriter, but someone did give me a joke to tell right now, like, apologies for the construction, but isn't it great that the hotel got into the theme? However, all those little Lego minifig things in your room, the hotel did that, not us. So they really did get into the theme. We're like, oh, that was pretty awesome. And just think about it. How many do you guys have in your rooms? Some people don't have some. Who has a minifig thing in their room? All right, so if you don't, I'm sad for you. But the hotel cut out these little cardboard things. You know, all the signs that are in your room, like hang up your towel and stuff like that. They have little minifigs saying it. And I was like, wait a minute. They did like a few hundred of those. That took some work. Are they looking for a job at a software company? Because that's called team spirit. The QR code's on your badge. That little guy right there. Just like last year, we are checking you into the sessions with a QR code so we can keep accurate head counts and distribute CEU credits. Okay? This is important for us because it helps us figure out which classes we need to do more. If we get 75 people at one class and 3 people in another class, we're probably going to do the one that got 75 again. So check in, please. It helps us with the body count. Unfortunately, you can't uncheck in after you went to one of my classes and try to give credit to a different class. All right? So once you're in there, we count you, but that also helps with the CEU credits. That's very important. Also, at the top of every admin opening chat presentation, I would like to remind you that the bathrooms are located at the end of this hall, around that corner, and then you go all the way that way, weave around, and so on the outsides of Emerald 3 or Diamond 2, or downstairs, just past the amphitheater. For many of you, you have been here enough times, you should know where the bathrooms are. They haven't moved them. Every year, we ask the Omansky group, are they in the room? Conrad and Betty are not in the room, but many of you, I can even point at some of you who've participated. The Omansky group, they are research folks that we use to try to understand what's on your minds, how to actually do what PCC does, and be more efficient and effective at serving you. And the Omanskys interview people. It's very simple. And so right now, they are looking to interview people in groups of 3, I believe. And so they want to get little collectives. And we've been doing this at the last, 3, 4, 5 users conferences. Raise your hand if you've been interviewed by the Omanskys. Okay? Was it painful? Was it actually was it a little bit of mini therapy? All right? Yeah? Yeah, it's fun. Okay. So they are available. And if you want to sign up, Erin, do they come to you? That's what my note says. Come chat with Erin. She's over there. She will help you get signed up and do a quick interview. It helps us help you. Mackenzie Magnus, is she here? She's out. Oh, there she is. I was like, she's out having a good time. All right, good for her. She is, I think, you are the manager of the SOPM and PPMA sections at the Academy? All right, I got it right. So she's the person from the Academy who oversees all the crazy SOPM members and PPMA members, keeps them in line. So first of all, please be on good behavior around Mackenzie. But as I look at some of the SOPM cognoscenti in this room, we all will nod yes, that thank God for Mackenzie, because she keeps the trains running and keeps, posts bail or whatever is necessary. So if you are not a member of PPMA, that's the practice manager, oh yeah, big PPMA people here too, big practice management manager section at the Academy, or a member of SOPM, the section on administration and practice management, where all the cool kids are. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Mackenzie, raise your hand again, please. Go say hi to Mackenzie. She's very nice, and she will take care of you. And if you aren't a member, what is it, $35? Did you raise the prices yet? $35. It's the best $35 you will spend. All right, the round tables. Now, we do listen to your feedback. So you told us very explicitly last year that you wanted more time for discussions. You wanted less time of someone like me talking at you. You wanted to speak with each other. So we've added roundtables as the final session on Wednesday and Thursday. And we're breaking people up by practice size and by region. Check the agenda in the app to determine which room you should go to. And for our virtual friends, where am I speaking to? For our virtual friends, I'm pointing into a camera. Oh, we've got 2 cameras. We got multiple cameras. This is a sitcom. All right. We have virtual rooms for you, all right? A subject that is very, very near and dear to our hearts here at PCC, food, dinners. This is actually the first time I've done morning announcements where I was not asked to read the menu for lunch. So that's fantastic. So we are hosting this evening dinners by practice role. So many of you have RSVP'd, and you should know where you're going and who might not know who you're sitting next to yet, but you may. All right, we have distributed you around the county. If you feel like you wanted to go to dinner and you didn't sign up, also speak to Aaron. We have seats left. All right. Otherwise, you are on your own in the scary town of Burlington, Vermont. But there's plenty to do. The restaurants are great. If you need restaurant advice, we are glad to help you. I would like to also thank, as we always should, our exhibitor friends, all the people in the exhibit hall. You should go say hello to them, because many of you use them as your third-party friends as well. I want to make it clear, if you don't already know, we curate who is in that room very carefully. For every vendor that's in that room, we have 1 or 2 vendors who have asked us to be in that room, and we say, no, you don't belong here, because their intent does not align with what we think your intent is. Because believe me, even you lowly pediatricians who don't make any money are very attractive to the vultures, and they would love nothing more than to come in here and sell you stuff. So the people who are out there are only vendors who our customers have vouched for. We have clients who work with them who tell us, yeah, these people have treated us well. So go say hello to them. They're your partners, and they're our partners. Now, this is where everyone at PCC gets nervous, because Chip was not given I was not given a script. Unless they tackle me or Brian turns me off, and I have a loud voice. I do not need a microphone. I've got about 10 minutes to say whatever I want. Now, I have a number of significant character flaws, one of which is that I have a hard time preparing for a talk. I don't really write it down. I don't practice it, but what happens, it's my form of ADD, is I think about it in my head a lot, and I wake up every morning like I did at 5 o'clock this morning, and I've already given this talk in my head, not practicing, just half asleep. And I assure you, at 5:15 this morning, I was a genius. I had some really great lines. I had said some really meaningful things. A couple people teared up. We all hugged. It was awesome. And then I wake up and I'm like, I should write this stuff down. That was a good line. And it's, phew. So we also did discuss, at the opening, what do we want to share with what do we want to talk to our clients about? Because I don't know if you've noticed, but things are extra crazy right now. So 2 years ago, I stood up here, probably within 5 or 10 feet of where I'm standing right now, and I talked about your future as independent physicians and people who work in those practices, because 2 years ago was sort of like peak private equity purchasing. I mean, it's still happening, but it was peaking right around then, and I shared with the audience at the time a couple different things. One of the things I shared was that we had just begun our journey at PCC into becoming what's known as a perpetual trust, perpetual purpose trust. And you're like, what's that? And that's the thing that you may have seen in the news that Patagonia did, but there are companies like, I think, Bosch and Zeiss and a few other companies who've been doing this for a few hundred years. Here's the concept. And there's a reason this is important to you, I think. So the two primary owners of PCC, John and Jay, neither of whom are here right now, right? So I can make fun of them, but I'm not going to. They have absolutely an opportunity to turn around and sell PCC, which is what every single one of our vendor competitors has done. Every one of them. Well, actually, no, I take that back. Devilo hasn't done it yet, but that's their goal. John and Jay could probably sell PCC, I don't know, for $50 million and walk away quite handsomely. They've worked hard, they've earned it. Look at what their idea brought you all here 35, 40 years later. But that's not what they want to do. What's really important to them is the mission of PCC, which is to remove the obstacles that keep pediatricians from taking care of children. So rather than sell the company, they're going to give the company to the company. And we're going to have a trust, a group of people who don't work at the company, who can't benefit from the company's being sold. They can't even sell the company. Their entire mission is to continue the mission of PCC. Why are they doing this? And first of all, yes, I want to thank John and Jay deeply for this. And I'm not alone when I say this. If it weren't for that kind of mission and understanding and philosophy, many PCCers would not work for PCC. Because it's easy for me to say, because I'm a point at my career where it's easy for me to say this. But I don't work at PCC for the money. I work for PCC because it's a meaningful job, which is something I shouldn't have to explain to anyone in this room, because you work at the most meaningful jobs on the planet, except for maybe elementary school teachers, all right, and you don't get paid what you're due. And in our minds, if we were to lose our independence, the moment PCC is not allowed to do the right thing on behalf of our customers because someone else says no, we're eroding your independence. Your independence, our independence is, to us, part of how we support your independence. So that was a discussion we had at PCC. It wasn't me doing all the talking, believe it or not, like I am right now, but it was something we all understood. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. That is very nice of you. Thank you. But here we are 2 years later, and we've continued with the perpetual purpose trust work. It's not a button you can flip. There's a lot of work you have to do. And we have to think about things we've never thought about, including all these weird questions about who's in charge. Because at PCC, everyone's in charge and no one is in charge all the time, all right? My friends are laughing in the back because they're like, yes, no, it depends, all right? But you know what I'm talking about. However, here I am 2 years later, and the existential threats to not only simply our independence, but our actual work are being threatened very heavily. I don't know what you pediatricians did to piss everyone off. But you are only below the prioritized target lists. You are only below, and I'm not going political with this, but think about it. The only people who are targeted more than pediatricians right now are undocumented immigrants. Because right below that is ACIP and Medicaid, and that is your heartbeat. Among the problems with that, though, is you are wholly emotionally unequipped to be the bad guys. You've never been the bad guys your entire lives. This room is filled with figurative and a few literal Boy Scouts. You all sat at the front. Every year, Fort Wayne sits right in the front row every time of everything I've ever done. They come right in. And you wake up in the morning knowing in both your heart and in your intellectual, science-driven mind that you are doing the best that you can for your kids. And right now, you have people telling you that you are a bad person harming children. And wow, do we feel that at PCC. The anxiety that everyone feels right now is very different from what we felt during those first couple months of COVID. Because with COVID, for at least a little while, we were kind of all in it together before things started fracturing. But right now, you are being targeted. And that feels painful. We feel that pain with you. Now, the market responds to this, and I'm not picking on just our other EHR competitor friends. I'm just saying the market, everyone in the market is trying to do two things. Number one, they are saying to you, we are stable. I mean, go Google any of the vendors you work with. I'm not just talking about the EHR, any of this, all kinds of vendors that you work with, and they're going to talk about their stability through this chaos. That's one thing they're talking about. Just keep in mind that almost all of them have settled class action lawsuits and have had breaches and have had kickback things and all. They're pretending that they're stable as they've been purchased and repurchased and purchased. The other thing they want to do to solve your chaos problem, and you tell me if I'm wrong when I say this, they want to sell you AI right now. This is the new, Professor Smith's magic potion of 2025 is AI. Don't get me wrong, we're all nerds at PCC. We think AI is super cool and we see what it promises. But that's not, AI is just a thing. What you don't, well, maybe there's some people in here, but it's not that you want AI any more than you wanted an EHR. No one here has ever wanted to buy an EHR. All right? We sell PCC, we sell sadness. All right? And AI is just a faster form of sadness. What you really want, tell me if I'm wrong, what you really want is to be able to actually sit in a room undistracted by anything and have an engaging conversation with a mom or with a child. You want to have a 45-minute behavioral health visit because this is your chance to maybe have a breakthrough, and you don't want to hear a click or a ding or say, hold on a second, or my network went down, or any of those things. All right? AI is not going to fix that. Maybe, and I'm not going to talk about AI right here. I don't want to steal stuff from other teams, but because we are going to talk about it later. It might sand some soft edges. All right? Well, let me just say one more thing, because I'm also going to get the hook. The stability that PCC offers is not that we're a billion-dollar company or we're now owned by some group of people here or we have a whole new management team or we're selling you this new product. The stability is that you are talking to the same people you talked to when you joined the PCC family, and we still have the same mission. We haven't changed. And we haven't changed because your mission hasn't changed. The single most important thing that you do is to take care of the kids, and the single most important thing that we do is take care of you. And that's what I wanted to say. And I just want to, Aaron, I'm going to get one more minute because I need to say something. So, it's not all that bad, however. All right, right now we are tense, but I want you to think about the victories and the things that we, I'm trying to get credit for your work, but we have accomplished. Right now, today, whatever the date is, July whatever 2025, more girls will get an HPV shot than ever in human history up through 2006. All right, think about that. And more boys will get an HPV shot than any time in history up through probably about like 2013, okay? All right, think. That's like, that improvement, we're not going to retreat on that. It's really not going to get worse, especially because you're all at about 70% anyway, but I did ask AI, because I am a big believer, not in AI, but this concept. I mean, there are fewer kids with food scarcity right now than there were 10 years ago. The graduation rate for kids of color has increased every year, year over year. There are more kids, even though it doesn't feel like it, there are more kids with access to behavioral health today than there were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and 15 years ago. And yes, we are having to scramble to maintain where we are, and we're afraid of losing. But I have 10 more measures. We have so many examples of where we have accomplished things. And what happens here, this is just your nature. Okay, we climbed the rung ladder, and you put it in the rearview mirror, and you're just trying to keep going, and you feel like if you can't move at the speed you want to move at, you're losing ground. You are not losing ground. You haven't lost ground. I can tell you from this side of the fence, because we measure it and we show you, your performance clinically in your engagement of children is at an all-time high. Some of you have been in practice for a little while. Some of you in practice, we've been in practice. Any of you here practiced in the 70s? No. But plenty of people who practiced in the 80s in here. Not plenty. I'm not going to look at anyone in the eye right now. But practicing in the 80s, before vaccines were even paid for, when there were only 5 of them, all right? In the 90s, even the early 2000s, we are better today, and you are better today than you've ever been. So the last thing I want to say is when we were talking about what we should talk about, I just gave you some examples, and I skipped a bunch of them, and my apologies. I skipped a bunch of them, but I realized, we just accidentally outlined the other thing I shared with you 2 years ago, which was PCC's official values. And those were, and we realized we're making all these things. Well, what are we going to talk about? What has PCC done for them? What are we trying to do for them? And it was our values again. And does anyone remember? Does anyone non-PCC remember any of our values? I'm just curious. So the first one, humanity over profit. And we have so many examples where PCC puts humanity over profit because that's what you do. We mimic you on that. Number 2, we share what we know. All those billing drop-ins that many of you attend that are open to anyone. The fact that we're streaming the users conference. The whole world is going to get to see Sandy Chung, who is, I'm trying not to say kick-ass, but she is kick-ass. All right, she's going to come up here and kill it. We want every pediatrician in the country to see that. We don't want to put that behind a paywall. So when we say we share what we know, we try to give away as much as we can because it's better for everyone. Second to last, we value independence and autonomy because that is what makes us and helps us get up in the morning. And when you lose your autonomy, when you lose your independence, the quality of the care goes down and the cost of the care goes up. Every single study has shown that every time. And last but not least, this is the one that even at PCC gets debated, is we practice what we call pragmatic irreverence. All right, yeah, and it's not simply because, we used Legos, all right, in our theme. That's not what we mean by it. Irreverence means we don't do what we're supposed to do because we're supposed to do it. We do what we do because we think it's right. And there are a lot of companies who can't behave financially the way we do because they don't have owners like John and Jay who don't put their own personal profit first. And so John was the one who was like spitting out all these examples, and I was like, hey, you just redid our values. There's the talk on Wednesday morning. So, enough from me. they are going to build a hook. I had to start late. Thank you very much. I'm about to hit spacebar on this screen. And those of you who have been to a users conference should know what's coming. I want everyone to be seated and paying attention because you're about to get, how many is this? 5? 4 or 5? What's this, the fifth one? Yeah, this is the 5th entry into the annual Bloom Pediatrics PCC video. All right? I mean, they have been awesome every single year. Every single year. Only 2 people at PCC have seen this so far. Like, this is the most secret one. I have no idea what's coming. All right? So I'm going to hit space. We have 5 minutes. And then Sandy Chung is right after me. She's going to come right up here on stage. And she might be the one person in this room who could follow a Bloom Pediatrics video. All right, you ready? Here we go.
Okay, we should sing it though, because I think we're better when we sing it. Okay, ready. Built this practice. This practice. Let's go to the blooper reel.
We built this practice. We built this practice with PCC. Built this practice. We built this practice with care and love. Say you don't know John or recognize his face. Say you don't care who sets the new label pace. Needy in the dashboard, sinking the EM fight. Too many denied claims, pediatricians blind. Shipping only review the data. Listen to the webinar. Don't you remember? We built this practice. We built this practice with PCC. We built this practice. We built this practice with care and love. Built this practice with PCC. We
partner that never sleeps.
So do you know what next year's song is yet? No, all right. So be careful. If you're too nice to the people from Bloom, you might get pulled into a video. All right, so am I pulling Sandy up? All right, I guess I should probably also give an introduction. If you do not know who Sandy Chung is, she was the super awesome AAP president 2 rounds ago, who if I would have elected her for life, but we also got Sue Cressley, who it's been worked out pretty well for us too. But Sandy, you shouldn't need an introduction, but she, your list of accomplishments would eat up into your entire time. But if nothing else, she runs a very large pediatric group in Virginia who has accomplished amazing things with behavioral health and contract negotiations and IT. I think that's a fair summary. Sandy, come on up and I will step down. Thank you.
Well, very good. I would like to put in the first bid for our Bloom Pediatrics Lego kit whenever that happens. So love it, so good. Hopefully everyone got here okay. You know, flights are always something that happen that are challenging. And so when I was on my way here yesterday, I was standing in line to get on to the flight, and someone behind me fell to the floor. It was an elderly woman, and so you have a moment, you know, you're like, oh, I know what to do. And I've never wanted to be an internist. Like, that was never in my list of things I wanted to be growing up through residency and or through med school. But at that moment, I really wanted to be an internist because I was like, oh, what do I do? Airway, breathing, circulation, all of that, you know. And you walk up, and you know, there are people trying to help, right there, everyone's gathered around trying to help her, and I say, I'm a doctor. And then everyone stepped back. I'm like, oh my gosh. So, you know, luckily she was okay. She had slipped and fallen. She had hurt her shoulder, which had been previously injured. So she turned out just fine. But there are moments where you just are like, oh, I hope there's an internist in the room, so, you know, but this is not one of them. So very happy to be here amongst a group of pediatricians, by far my favorite group to work with all my career, obviously. I'm going to talk about some of the things that Chip alluded to that are challenging right now, and then I'm going to hopefully talk about some of the things that we can do to make this better. So let's see. So we know that independent practice isn't as common anymore, sadly. So across the country, all specialties, independent practice represent about 20% of the physicians at this point. And so we are a breed of people who need to continue doing what we're doing because there aren't enough of us anymore. We know that there are lots of people in the country who have tried to do this and have decided it's too hard. So retail-based clinics, with Walgreens, Walmart, they have been shutting down their retail-based primary care clinics, and largely because, as we know, it is challenging. Now, in this country, we spend a lot of money on healthcare, as we all know. So when we look at other countries that are similarly aligned with us economically, you can see that the United States, we're that bar right on the end, we spend a lot more, almost double what other countries spend on healthcare. And you would think that with that, we would have better outcomes, but that's not the case. So here you can see charts around infant mortality and maternal mortality. We need to do better. When we look at the payer industry, obviously there's a lot of consolidation happening there as well. So these are the top 5 insurance companies in our country. When you add up their percent of market share, it's more than 50%. So at this point, there are fewer and fewer stakeholders in the payer industry that really are deciding what gets paid for in healthcare. Now, this could be good or bad, right? There's pros and cons to everything. Obviously, the good parts, well, maybe it's not obvious, but one of the good parts is that now there are fewer people for us to work with in order to make change. The bad part, of course, is that they have a lot of the leverage. The cost of healthcare is now going back up. It had gone down for a little bit. Some of that was COVID related. But now that we are back and seeing our clinicians, we're getting healthcare, the costs are going up. Some of this is related to expensive medications, like GLP-1s, for example. We know that the cost is going up in healthcare. This isn't good for us as a country. I know in pediatrics we talk a lot about how do we make sure that we get paid fairly. We are such a small part of this equation, but just recognize that as a unit across the country, when we're thinking about healthcare, that we're trying to control costs, and that's for the good of all of us. In pediatrics, of course, we all know that the work we do leads to the future. Anybody in here like to garden? Few of you. So I love to garden, and so I recently went away for about a week and a half and left all of my plants in my house in the care of my 20-year-old son. Yeah, exactly. But luckily, we don't leave the lives of healthcare of children in the hands of my 20-year-old son, but in our hands. And so with our work, our knowledge, all of our care and compassion, that love and care that we provide, kids are doing well. They're doing better, as Chip mentioned. They're going to continue to do well. Despite all the crazy that's happening, we're not going anywhere. Right? We might change, that's always possible, but we're not going anywhere. And we're still gonna see those kids and we're still gonna take great care of them. So there is hope for the future. A lot of the healthcare spend is on prevention and chronic disease. And we live in those spaces. So a lot of the work that's happening in healthcare is in our office, right? In our offices. Some of you heard this before. When I was AAP president, I had the opportunity to travel around the world. And so I got to go and speak to the Argentinian Pediatric Society. I was in Chile speaking to pediatricians. And one thing I saw, which was so interesting in Chile, is that there are cows that are way up on these mountains. And if you don't believe me, there's the little white head of the cow. Do you see him? And so, but when I think about this mountain, and the cost of healthcare, the cost of healthcare was this mountain. We are the cow. We're at pediatrics. You may have heard us referred to as budget dust. We are very tiny relative to the spend. Right? However, the work that we do is so important to really civilization and the future of society. So that difference of spend versus outcome, I think we need to continue to do a better job of verbalizing this and advocating for us. When you look at the spend of the US dollar on healthcare, primary care itself isn't paid very much, so we can see we're about 5-7% of the spend. And this is not just pediatrics, this is all primary care. Other similar countries, economically aligned like ours, they spend about 10 to 15% on primary care. In Virginia, I'm on a primary care task force appointed by our governor, and one of the things we did was look at our own state to see what we spend on primary care. And Virginia spends about 3% on primary care. So it's no wonder that people are challenged. And we know payment's an issue, so this is from Medscape, and so they do a survey every year looking at average salaries. This includes bonuses and such. So you can see pediatrics is near the bottom. We're always near the bottom or at the bottom. We exchange places with people. And so I think it's interesting just to see where primary care is in the landscape of all specialties. And then when you look at, are we happy with what we're being paid? The pediatricians, we're obviously still thinking we need more. What's interesting is that all the doctors feel like they should be paid more, which I think is fascinating. I don't know what the family medicine doctors are doing, but we need a little of that, whatever that is. And things are changing. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the new legislation. You've seen things in the news, but I will talk about a few things that are in this bill that are relevant to us in pediatrics. Certainly we know that there are states across this country where Medicaid expanded to adults, and so there's a lot of legislation around that. However, in pediatrics, we know that when adults are insured, children are more likely to be insured. When adults seek health care, their children are more likely to seek health care. So what happens to the adults is incredibly relevant to what happens to children. So when we're hearing about increased work requirements, increased administrative tasks to prove that you're eligible for Medicaid, now you have to do that as an adult every 6 months instead of every year. Imagine if you think about your Medicaid families, if you have any, and their parents, and whether or not they have the capacity, time, understanding, all of those things to know that they need to reapply, redo things every 6 months in order to maintain coverage. That's a lot to ask of people. It's also a lot to ask of a state to administer, right? There's a lot of infrastructure that's going to have to be built in order to meet some of these requirements, and that's going to cost money. So when you have a bucket of funds for Medicaid, it's being pulled to all these other things that are about to come towards us. These are not all instant. Some of them are right away. Some are in 26, 27, 28, et cetera. So we'll have to watch carefully what happens as each of these come into play. It is interesting, there is a lot of support for rural health, so if your practice is in a rural community, they are planning on doing some rural health transformation funding, so keep an eye out for any potential funds that you might be able to take advantage of. Increased co-pays for the adult population is something that's going to happen. No funding for Planned Parenthood or similar organizations. I did want to talk a little bit about provider taxes. Does anyone know what a provider tax actually is? Yeah. So I didn't know, so I actually went and looked it up because I'm like, well, no provider taxes sounds pretty great. I'm not going to get taxed, lovely. But no, actually. So here's an example of what happens in provider taxes. So if you can see here, so let's say a state says to a hospital, I'm going to charge you a provider tax. I'm going to charge you $10 million in a provider tax. And the hospital says, $10 million? Yeah, okay. But they $10 million, and the state says, but in exchange, I'm going to increase your Medicaid payments to $20 million. Okay, so the hospital gave 10, the state's going to give them 20. That $20 million that they're now spending on healthcare, they can get a federal match against. So on average, the states are getting 60% of a match. So 60% of that $20 million that the state just spent on that hospital is $12 million. Okay, everybody following? Okay, so the state just now got an extra $12 million. 10 of those $12 million, they're going to give to the hospital because they bumped up their rates. Do you see that? Like the rates went up, and so they're going to give that to the hospital. And then they're left over with $2 million that now the state can use for other things. So there's a net profit that goes because they got federal matching dollars. So the hospital does well, even though they paid a tax, they actually did well. And then the state does well. This is why some states really do this very, very well. And so it may be in one of your states where you are getting higher Medicaid rates, although it tends to go to facilities, because of provider taxes. So by Congress now saying we're going to cap provider taxes and not allow them for certain facilities, suddenly states are going to be short dollars because they don't have that federal match. And if they don't have that federal match, then of course they're going to have to find that funding from somewhere else. And if that funding is a fixed pot of cash, the part that the hospital has, right, where they've already been promised these higher rates, do you think they will necessarily go back to the hospital and say, oh, I'm so sorry, I can't give you that bump I gave you last year? Right? No, not necessarily, right? So that's where it's problematic for us when there's a cap on provider taxes. That makes sense to everybody? Yeah, okay. So many things to worry about. This week, it's not in my slides because it actually just got published on Monday. CMS announced what they're going to be doing for the Medicare rates for 2026. Now, hopefully everyone understands that what Medicare does as far as rate setting ultimately impacts us in our practices. Your commercial contracts might be based on Medicare rates. Your Medicaid rates are likely based on Medicare rates. So what Medicare does matters. So CMS just announced what they're going to do for 2026. These are proposed rules. They're not final yet. They're out for public comment. We get 60 days to express our opinion on what's happening. There's some really interesting things in there, and it's not all bad. So one of the things that they're doing is they're going to increase it by 3 to 4%, almost 4%. That's great, because we've heard a lot about Medicare cuts, right? So that's going to go up. They're introducing this thing called an efficiency adjustment to certain codes. So not to our E&M codes, those types of things, but to the procedure codes primarily. And what the premise behind this efficiency adjustment is that procedures over time should get easier to do. So if you're not aware how we get our RVUs today, what our payment's based on today, a lot of it is survey-based. So some of you may have participated in those. They'll say, there's a new code, we'd like you to compare it to an existing code, estimate your amount of work, how much it costs your practice, all of those things. And they add those things, their surveys up, average them, and they come up with, and I don't know what the magic is in the black box, but they come up with an RVU. Well, actually, the AMA has a committee called the RUC. The RUC does that. Then they send it off to CMS. CMS has the option to listen to them or not, but for the most part, they listen to them. The challenge is that in the RUC, this committee that decides all the RVUs, is about 90%, maybe 85% specialists, adult specialists. And then there's a few, like AAP has 1 or 2 seats, the internist the same, family practice the same. So our RVUs, as for all of us, is determined largely by a group that has a lot of specialists in it, adult specialists. So you wonder why we got to where we are. So the premise behind this is that over the years, the survey method may not be the best way because it's us telling them what we think we're worth. And being pediatricians, we may not be valuing ourselves as much as some of the others might be doing that. So this efficiency adjustment is supposed to help account for that. It'll be fascinating to see if this works. If you have time, it's a very fun read, but take a look and see what they're proposing. They're also proposing some interesting increased payments for behavioral health integration. This is, again, at Medicare, so we'll have to do a lot of advocacy to make sure it flows down to pediatrics. G2211 is a good example of where Medicare does something, but it doesn't always flow down to us. So there's a lot of advocacy work we need to do. So just so that you're aware, this is happening. Public comments out there today, so you may want to take a look and maybe do something if you have feelings about this. We also know that our ability to walk into an office and have people just take what we say and accept what we're saying, which is fairly paternalistic, but is so different. The trust in our profession has changed so much. Gallup does a survey of about 23 professions every year, and they ask a question about trust and honesty. And you can see we're still doing well. So the top profession that's trusted in their list is nurses. And then Chip mentioned elementary school teachers. There's, and grade school teachers, they're second. Military officers, pharmacists, and then us. Pharmacists, what in the world? But that's where we are. Walgreens called me the other day. I had a refill, they called me and they're like, "Hi, this is Walgreens. We'd like to talk about your medications and see if you need anything." And I said to them, "No, that's weird." And I hung up on them. And I thought, oh my gosh, they're calling every patient and asking them if they want to discuss their medications. I'm like, oh my God, they have too much time. Now, negative. TV reporters, members of Congress, lobbyists, no surprise. This is interesting. So this is looking at the change in the results of the Gallup poll over the years. So from 2021 to 2024, and you can see the change in the public's perception of honesty by us and trust in us has dropped dramatically compared to the other professions. However, what's interesting is that all of them have dropped. So just generally speaking, as a society, we tend to trust less, and largely that's, as you can imagine, due to the way we receive information today, probably. It is varied by age group. So the older you are, the more you tend to trust your doctor, and then the younger you are. And look at that last group, because that's our group, and the last two are kind of our parents of our group too. And so it's, half or less than half of them trust their doctor. So when we're walking into the room, sort of that change in the way we present our information, we probably need to adapt. We probably are naturally doing it, but we probably need to adapt how we're presenting information to people without the assumption of trust. We know that vaccines are a problem. People, obviously, there are a lot of questions. I don't know about you all, but we're having more patients come in who are just, especially the parents of the little ones, the newborns, who are like, "I didn't know vaccines were so controversial." So now they're thinking about it and they're wondering, are they really safe? And now you have to have that conversation, right? And so I think continuing to figure out how we message to our families, knowing that they've heard a lot of misinformation, disinformation. Vaccination rates have dropped over the years. So when we look at the measles, polio, et cetera, the total is less. Now it's still pretty good. I mean, look at the line. We're still at 93% or so, 92%. That's still good, except when you need herd immunity to be at 95, 98%, we're not there. So then this happens, and then you end up with diseases that are preventable showing up. These are the percent vaccinated for measles in the last year, so 23 to 24. And you can see that the red, the more orange colors are lower vaccinated populations. And so the outbreaks, this is all of last year on the left, and on the right where we are as of last week. It costs money also to have these diseases happen. It is so much cheaper for us as a society to have healthy individuals that are vaccinated than to have these diseases present, and then the healthcare that follows, not to mention the bad outcomes that can follow. So like in 2018, 2019, New York had a measles outbreak, and they spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on that public health response. So it's expensive, these diseases, and maybe that's part of the argument we need to have as well, to understand that it's not just the clinical consequences of these diseases. Mental health, of course, continues to be a thing. We're continuing to figure out patchwork, ductwork solutions. I was just telling Christoph earlier that in Virginia, we've started a pilot with 2 of our Medicaid MCOs where they are giving practices infrastructure dollars, so $40,000 each to a practice, to be able to hire an integrated behavioral health therapist. And then that will get you the salary money that you need to get started as you credential them, and then an ongoing PMPM for doing the mental health work. So how do we continue to build those models in all of our different states across the country to make sure that this is sustainable and that it's something we can continue to do? There aren't enough child psychiatrists. The red and leading to orange and yellow, those places do not have enough child and adolescent psychiatrists for the number of children in the population. So you can see it's most of the country. And you know that every day in your work. often people ask me, what's happening? Why are we having so many mental health issues? And obviously we know that's multifactorial. We know that there's obviously less stigma around that for this young generation. They're so good. I just had a great summit with college students, and we had a bunch of college students come together talking about mental health, and we brainstormed about ways that we can improve mental health for college-age individuals. And one of the things that they came up with was that everyone should get college credit for having therapy. Love that. So being creative, thinking about solutions where we can help to make an impact, make a difference, because social media is not going away. We know that young people, or all of us, many of us, I don't do a lot of social media, but when I do, I have to think about it and get myself off of it and say, okay, that cat is really cute, and that baby is adorable, but I got work to do. So the algorithms behind these products are designed to keep us attached, right? So fear of missing out, social proof, all of these things that say, if you continue on my platform, you will be rewarded somehow psychologically. And that's what keeps us attached to these things. The young people, though, most of them know this. So there is a part where we needed to educate individuals that this is what happens. These are designed to keep us attached. However, most of the young people already know this. I was at a meeting, and we were talking about mental health again. And one of the solutions was that Dr. Chung should do a TikTok video. Right. No. No. But we were continuing to have that conversation, and I would say the people who were saying that were probably in their 40s or so, maybe 40s, 50s. The young people said, I don't think my algorithm would actually elevate Dr. Chung's video to me. Fair point, right? Totally true. So as you're thinking about using social media, perhaps, just realizing that the algorithms will maybe elevate your product, maybe not. And then we have to think about the little ones, right? So the little people are using devices. So Common Sense did a nice study that showed that children under 8 spend 2.5 hours a day on screens. 1 in 3 kids are already using AI in some capacity, and 40% of the kids have their own tablet by the time they're 2. Right? Now the chart below, the graph below is kind of interesting. This is reading to a child daily, real books, okay? And so you can see for the little ones, the line that's going upwards are for those who are 2 and under. So we're doing a good job. We're reading more to our youngest people. However, the line that's dropping is the 5 to 8-year-olds. And so we're not reading as much to that age group. And it may be that they're being replaced with devices, not the children, what we're doing with them. Yeah, one day. So parents are concerned, though. It's not that they don't know. So they are concerned about the impact on mental health, on brain development. But they also know that their kids are learning from a lot of what they're seeing on screens. So it's important for us to continue to adapt. Think about how do we teach parents to use the screens, sit next to your child while they're using the screens, and talk about what's happening on the screen, ask questions, engage. All of that's really important. I was just at the airport, kind of looked like this, and so being able to understand that technology is here to stay. This is a graph that shows, with technology, how long it took each one to get 50 million users. So 68 years for an airplane, 62 for a car, 19 days for Pokemon Go. And if you were to put ChatGPT up there, it would be even shorter than that, right? So it has changed. So what about AI? Chip, I am going to talk about AI. I am an AI fan. I do think there's opportunity here. And let me just caveat this with, my brother is a Google AI engineer. My second brother is an AI strategist for Cox Communication. My eldest son is an AI engineer for Epic. Okay. So Thanksgiving's really exciting. So I just have to actually absorb the AI world. It's fun. It's interesting to see what can happen. I'm a tech geek at heart. And so when PricewaterhouseCoopers asked the public what they thought about AI in healthcare, It was interesting to see what they saw. So 73% of executives said they're going to use AI. 1 in 5 people said that they're ready for AI to be a part of their healthcare. 80% of 18 to 34-year-olds said they're ready for AI to be part of their healthcare. And what's fascinating is that 60% of those 55 and older said the same thing. So we are healthcare. And so thinking about how we use AI is going to be really important, right? It might be in the way it helps us, but thinking about how it might also help our patients. So let's talk a little bit. I presented a lot of things going on. Let's think about how do we adapt in this space? How do we do better? How do we survive? How do we be extra resilient? You guys are here because you are resilient. You're amazing leaders. And so what else can we do? So take a look at this slide. And you're the conductor. And look at the animals. Can you think of anyone in your practice that fits those animals? I love the people who know each other from the same practice. They're like, oh, that's John. So as a leader, you will have to manage all of these folks, right? And you are managing all of these folks and personalities. And so as the conductor of the orchestra, there are a lot of things you have to do. All right, what do you see here? Who saw a rabbit first? Who saw a duck first? I'm not going to tell you what that says about you. Yeah. I'm really not. So building a culture. Strategy number 1, build that very strong culture. Okay, how do you do that? How do you make it so your staff is happy with that, right? Everyone brings joy to this office. Everyone brings joy to this office, right? Some when they enter and some when they leave. And I hope that's not your suggestion box, right? So this is not how you build a strong culture. Chaos, we talk a lot about chaos. Any of you feel like the picture here? Right. My practice hates it when I come to a conference. Right? Because when you come to a conference, you don't have to necessarily deal with that, although I see a couple people still checking their phones and doing things. People are still bothering you. You're at a conference. But when I come back from a conference, I have like a whole list. These are things I want to do. So they hate it when I go. But as soon as you get back, the hats start coming back on, the fires start showing up, and you've got to do that work. I get it. Chaos is not always bad, though, because when there is chaos, that is when we innovate. That is when we can come up with new ideas. If something's already working just fine, you're less likely to address it. So chaos by itself isn't bad, but we do want things to be good. We want your life to be like this. So cohesion, right? Have a shared purpose. Everybody's working together. People love each other. That's our goal. Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. You may have an amazing strategic plan. You may have sat around a table with a retreat with all your folks, and come up with a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, or just in your head, maybe you've got a great strategy. But if you don't have the culture to support it, it's going to be really hard to get there. So focusing on that culture. So what is it? It's a shared belief system. It shows up not just in how people behave towards each other, but in your policies, in your procedures. Right? If you're like, we welcome all suggestions, we welcome all things, but then you have a matrix of exactly what each person's supposed to do, then maybe that's not quite a match. So thinking about how do you have all of the work that happens around you match what you want in your culture. I heard one person say that the culture that a person experiences at work is set by the person right above them. So the culture that your front staff is experiencing at work is not set by you necessarily, but maybe by their manager or their supervisor or their lead. So it's so important that as a leader that you continue to train those who are managing others to be great leaders. You all come to conferences like this, which is fantastic, but where are they going? We don't naturally get to know how to do all this all the time. So going to learning and getting information is really important. So are there classes they can go to? It's worth the investment in the long run. Tell me what this is. Any ideas? Yeah. A compass. So sometimes we have new initiatives, we have things that we want to put in place in our offices, and this is what we see in our heads, right? We know what this is going to be. This might be what your staff is seeing. And when you're like, well, why don't they know what that's not what I meant, or, why aren't they doing what I expected? And it may just be that they don't quite have all the information, all the details in a way that they perceive it. We always behave for a reason, and it's based on the way we think and the way we perceive the world to be. So their perception is based on what they know and the information that they have. And so their behavior is based on that as well. So just, again, making sure that they have all the details. Clarity of purpose. If everyone could put their purse or wallet on the table for me, or on your lap, if you don't have a table. If you have a purse or a wallet, just put it out on your lap or on the table. All right. Okay. Everybody good? We're going to do an activity. And what you're going to do is you're going to hand your wallet or your purse to the person next to you, and they're going to rearrange it so that it's better. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Please don't do it. I'm kidding. Please don't do it. Sorry. I'm just kidding. I love the people who are like, okay. You trust so much. I love it very much. What did you all think when I told you what the activity was? What thought ran through your head? What? What are you, crazy? Yeah, I love that. What else were you thinking? No way. What's that? Great. Oh, okay. Your purse may need cleaning or something. Well, at that moment, you didn't know what I was about to ask you to do, so maybe you were wondering, like, why do I have this on my lap or on the table? So you didn't quite know what was happening. And then when I told you what it was, you were like, a little afraid maybe, a little worried, a little absolutely not, I'm not doing that, right? So when we're asking people to do things, making sure they understand why we're doing it in advance. Why are we doing it? Why does it matter to me? What will I benefit from it? What is it going to do to change my life, right? So making sure people understand the purpose of what you're doing. And needing that direction, because if you don't know where you're going to end up somewhere else, that's for sure. All right, another one. Cross your arms for me, just the regular way. Now cross it the other way. Put the other arm on top. Yeah. All right. Was it kind of hard to do? Yeah. Did you have to think about it really hard? Do you really, really want to go back the other way? Yeah, for sure. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, I don't want you to be uncomfortable. So that's change. It's a very simple example of change. When we're changing, when we're trying to do something new, something different, it's super uncomfortable. You have to think about it. Think about when you went live on PCC, right? It's a new thing. You had to figure it out. It's super. You totally want to go back to paper. Like there's just all these things about change that is hard. And so when we're asking people to change, making sure you provide those details, right? You want to make sure they have the perception, make sure they know the why, that they have the purpose, and then give them time in order to get used to that change. There is a graph that sort of describes the stages of change, similar to the stages of grief. So you have people all going through these different stages at different speeds. Some people, the early adopters, are going to fly through all these stages. It will be no problem. There are folks that are going to sit in denial for a long time or resistance, but then eventually they'll get there. So you need to make sure that people have time. There are people that are going to go super fast, and there are people who are going to go much slower. All right, second strategy, prioritizing. You got a lot of hats on, there are a lot of fires going on, all sorts of things happening in the world. Let's prioritize. Take all the things on your to-do list and what actually belongs to you. What do you need to focus on? So you can do anything, right? But not everything. And so overwhelm happens when you have too many things on your list and there's not a way to prioritize. So you may do this naturally already. I'm a list maker. Any list makers in the house? Yeah. So your list maker, is your list just a list or is it a prioritized list? Yeah, mine's just a list. It's a brain dump, get it out of my head, put it on a piece of paper, I'll get to it. But then prioritizing it would be important. There are frameworks around this if you need one. So this one is an example, this Eisenhower decision maker matrix, where you look at what's urgent, not urgent, what is impactful, what's not impactful, and then you can categorize things into things you should be doing today, tomorrow, next week, next year, or never. And flexibility. So within your practice, do you only have that one person who knows how to process a referral? There may only be one person in your practice, so I get that. But maybe somebody else needs to just know how, even if you never actually do it. In my practice, what we like to do is to take a new employee and rotate them through the different parts of the office. So the front staff goes to the back goes to the front, and everybody has to see what the other side's doing. Because otherwise, there's a lot of perception about what's happening in the different parts of the office, and then behaviors happen because of those perceptions. So it's not about how fast you run or how high you climb, but how well you bounce. Businesses are hard. There are pieces to the work that we do. We want high quality, efficiency, speed, and reduce the cost. You may not have all of these. That doesn't work, actually. So 2 or 3. So you can have it fast, you can have high quality, but also having it cheaper is sometimes really hard to find, right? So ensuring that expectations are set. If we want this, we're gonna have to pay for it. If we want to have high quality, we want low cost, great, we can maybe find that amazing vendor, so all of these things are important. All right, I'd like to try something with you all. We're gonna do charades for just a second. So if you could pretend to make a phone call real quick. All right, interesting, okay, thank you. I asked my 9-year-old to do this. He did this. Okay, everybody hang up your phone that you were just doing charades with. What did he do? Right? Okay. Yeah, so things are different. Things are going to continue to change. We need to make sure that we're ready for whoever's after us. So I don't care how old you are or what stage you are in this career, but you will have somebody after you. And so who is that? And how do you start raising them from scratch, So I know when you all started in this role, when you were in high school, when you were in college, you may not have had the skills that you have today. And that comes with time and that comes with experience. So it just takes time to develop new workforce. And so let's make sure we're doing that. Using technology. So use that technology. So please like and share that post. All right, a little bit about AI real quick. So do the same thing that we've always done, but do it new. Not quite. We don't want to end up doing this anymore. We're done with that. So how do you use AI for your benefit? If you have ever used AI scribes, I will tell you in our group, probably half of our clinicians use AI scribes right now. They love it, love it, love it, love it. And it's largely because of the time savings. And remember that graph I showed, the chart I showed you, where people are willing to use healthcare, in AI together. So it's not that fear of patients not adopting it or accepting it may not quite be valid. And so one of my pediatricians said it saved her 10 hours a week. So think about adding 10 hours a week to your work. AI can cost money though, so a lot of industries now, they're thinking about AI slightly differently, not in your technology budget, but actually in your HR budget. Because now what you're doing is potentially saving some HR time, so some of that salary line item in your budget might be adaptable towards AI if there's a way to incorporate AI where it actually saves you people. Anybody read that top line right the first time? Yeah. So we have to be really careful about technology and our brains too. AI has a lot of amazing things, but obviously we got to watch it with a grain of salt. It does hallucinate sometimes, it does make stuff up, so we got to watch it. I do think it's important to think about how many people know about SEO? SEO, like when you're a website, you're trying to make sure all the Google finds all the important things so your site comes up first, right? All of that. Well, in AI now, it's going to be a little bit different. So I do ask you all, when you have time, go into ChatGPT, Claude, whoever your favorite AI is, and search for who's the best pediatrician in your area. Or the things that you think about with Google where you're like, well, when they search for this, I want my practice to show up. Gradually, people are going to be using AI more and more for search. Google actually already uses it. And what I noticed is that it's a little bit more literal than maybe Google is. So when you search for who is the best pediatrician in Fairfax County, it's looking for individual humans, not practices. So it elevates individual doctors more than it elevates practices. So if you've not spent a lot of time making sure your individual clinician reviews are positive, you might want to do a little bit of more work there, because that's what the AI seems to be looking for more. Okay? Another strategy, working together. Right, figuring out how you do this together, not just being alone. You guys are all here together in a community today, so that is a great example of working together. Find another practice that's like you and see how you might be able to work together. You may not even be in the same state, but we're more alike than we are different. There are things you can do about your contracts potentially, right? Working with capitation, that's really big. Maybe not, maybe, but value-based care, how do you adopt population health? It's definitely here to stay. There's a game to that and a skill to that. So if you're going to succeed at population health, there are a lot of us who do this for a living now, it seems, that we focus on data, analytics, and how does that PM actually work? How do you make sure your attribution, it belongs to you? How do you maximize your attribution? There's a lot of work there that can happen, and we can all together teach each other how to do this best. We do know in pediatrics, though, it's not quite the same. In pediatrics, the measures are scarce, right? It's usually well checks, immunizations, maybe an asthma or a depression one. There aren't enough that really reflect what we do. And also, I would just say that shared savings, which is the adult model, it doesn't make sense, right? We're a budget dust. So you're asking us, insurance company, to save money, and when we save money, that's how we're going to be paid in the future. Well, if the pot is only this big and I can only save so much, right? No, very few children are in the hospital because they're not supposed to be there. And so how am I, other than reducing ER utilization and using generic drugs maybe, how do we make sure that when we're designing value-based care contracts, that they work for us? And what's interesting is when I talk to payers, I'm on several national committees with large insurance companies, and they're like, oh, we never thought about that. Or nobody's ever said anything. So I think we all just say it over and over to the people you work with. When the winds of change blow, some people build walls, other people build windmills. Both work. You just have to decide what you want to do. I will tell you what I did. Trusted Doctors is a group that I built with another practice, and it's a super group. We now have over 300 pediatric clinicians. We are not private equity owned. We are not health system owned. We are independent. We built it ourselves. Okay, we did not need a consultant. We did not need any of that. I'm happy to teach you how to do it, so for free. So if you are interested, if you just want to know how it works, just come talk to me. I'd love to help you all. So it does take time, and so you got to make sure it's worth it and it makes sense for your practice. I will say, I'll just give you some quick things, that you need a champion at your practice. You need maybe a couple practices. You do not want to do this with 15 practices on the outset, because there's a lot of decisions that need to be made, and it's just a lot easier to do that with fewer people in the room. And so once you do that, you collaborate, and then eventually, if you're under a single tax ID, you can get to the point where you're maybe contracting together or doing other work together. There are some things that we do together, and I'm not doing this as a sales pitch. We're not adding any more groups to Trusted Doctors, so there's no opportunity to join us. But I would say I'd like to have more of groups like ours across the country so that pediatrics can survive. So things you can do together, finance, billing, human resources, all of those things can be done together. And there's a lot going on. Who's seen this picture before? A couple of you. Okay, this is my car. Yeah, so what happened? So this is 2018. This is a 2018 Toyota Sienna. I had it for 3 months. We were out fishing. My husband loves to fish. I like to boat. We had just a little bitty boat that was at a local park of ours. And we were done for the day. We had been fishing all day, didn't catch a single fish, so we're like, let's go home. So I drove the minivan. There's a boat trailer on the back of that you can't see. I backed up the minivan on the boat ramp and we loaded the boat on. I got out to look, and my husband's like, let's unload the boat a little bit. The boat ramp wasn't busy. And I was like, oh, okay. And you can see the back of it's open, right? So we were loading it up. And I was like, oh, I left the engine on. So I went up front to go turn off the engine. It's a push-button start car, so I didn't get in. I just reached in and I hit the button, and then the car started to roll backwards into the water. Yeah. So what do you do when your boat goes in? When your car goes in the water? Anybody know? Scream. Call AAA, right? We called 911. We didn't know. So the police came, the fire trucks came, the ambulance came, everybody came. Now, we were at a public park, so the park was busy. So there were a lot of cell phones up, I'm on Instagram somewhere. So basically, apparently you need a special tow truck to get a car out of the water because it's super heavy and there's fuel and all sorts of things. So we're all waiting around for this tow truck to show up. And, I'm in healthcare, so I saw, the EMS guys were standing there. So I'm like, hey, you guys can go, we're okay. And the EMS guy was like, oh, I just want to see what happens. I'm like, okay, happy to entertain you. So we all stand around, we wait 45 minutes for the special tow truck to show up. They come, they pull the car out of the water. Now you remember I said we'd been fishing all day, and we didn't catch a single fish. Yeah, that thing was full of fish. It's amazing. Yeah. Very expensive way to go fishing. I do not recommend it. But expect the unexpected. Afterwards, we're like, okay, it's just a thing. Nobody got hurt, right? Nobody got hurt. And the insurance covered it. It's all good. I went back to the dealer, and I'd been there 3 months prior, and saw the same guy. And I'm like, I need a new car. And he's like, why? And I showed him this picture. And he's like, why'd you do that? I didn't like the color. I don't know. So, what is time? Another thing I just wanted to do with you real quickly. So, what is the value of time? For 1 year, think about a student who failed a grade. For 1 month, the mom of a preemie. 1 week, someone who has weekly deadlines. 1 hour, people who are waiting to see each other, haven't seen each other a long time. 1 minute for that person who just missed their flight or train. 1 second if someone just missed being in an accident. I'd like to just sort of, if you wouldn't mind giving me a couple minutes here, where we'll basically look at this as an image of your life. So a yardstick, 1 centimeter equals 1 year. So average lifespan in the US is 76 years. So we're gonna focus on work here. So maybe you're working till you're 76, hopefully not. So we're going to take that off, right? Because we're going to work until we're 76, which seems like a long time. Then you've already lived some years, so we're going to take those off. I'm going to do you all a favor and say the average age in this room is 38. And so, let's take those out because you already lived those, right? And then we shouldn't be working on the weekends. I know we all do, but we shouldn't be working on the weekends. We shouldn't be working on the holidays. Shouldn't be working when you're on PTO. We're going to take all that off. You should sleep. That's important. So let's pretend we get 8 hours of sleep every night. So we're not going to work while we're sleeping, although Chip does speeches in his head when he's sleeping. And then we need time to eat, we need time to drive to work, and this isn't even including your spending time with your family and doing other activities. So when you take all of that away, you have 6.8 years of life left, work life, okay? So 6.8 years, and then if you're older, you can adjust for that. If you don't want to work till you're 76, adjust for that, right? So I think understanding that the amount of time we actually spend on work is limited, And so are you doing what you want to do that meets your mission in life, brings you joy with what you're doing? If you have a goal, is everything that you're doing in this short period of time leading towards that goal? If you think about the day before you came here, maybe it was the weekend, but if you were at your last work day, did you do things that maybe did not lead you towards your personal goal, right? And so how do you reframe those? How do you prioritize them? How do you delegate them? Or how do you not do some of that work? I will tell you just real quickly, what I'm doing is that I've decided the healthcare future workforce is important to me. I want to make sure they're future pediatricians. I want to make sure there's future behavioral health folks. So I started a nonprofit to work with college kids because some of them are thinking, not sure, a lot of them are like, I'm going to be pre-med. And then if pre-med doesn't work out, they pivot away from healthcare completely. And that shouldn't happen. There's so much work in healthcare. There's so many administrators in this room that those college students could become, right? There's so many teams in our practices where those college kids could become part of that team. So that's what I've decided to work on. So I hope you all have thought about what you want to work on. And I really appreciate your time so much this morning. And thank you for all that you do. Thank you.